Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, B?
I'm good. It's Super Bowl Sunday, you know. I've got all my squares laid out, ready for the game.
All your squares, that sounds... You might have to explain that to some of you folks in the younger generation. I don't know, maybe you won't, but it is definitely a Super Sunday, one of the biggest. This is a fun fan type of day across the country. We're going to talk some Super Bowl parties for all ages. As you can see, we have a guest with us, and we're definitely going to let Bailey have some fun once we get to talking about basketball. He may have a thing or two to say about that huge win over number 2 Duke last night. We definitely have a great show for you. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Greenville Sports Media Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Greenville Sports Media is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts, the latest articles, and other sports media at greenvillesportsmedia.com. And those guys can also be found on all forms of social media, just like the Fun Fans can. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
Yeah, and Reuben's is your official place to get your Super Bowl wings, food, sports, spirits, and catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. Their website is reubensc.com. Reuben's is a great place to eat for all sports fans, especially Super Bowl fans.
I have placed my order. They are open today. I have a pickup time of 4:15, so I will be bringing home the wings after the show. And the Fun Fans Podcast is also brought to you by Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services. At Ivy O'Sullivan, they're more than just chiropractors. Since 1977, this family-owned business located in downtown Spartanburg has been helping people with techniques other than the typical twisting and popping that can sometimes make people nervous about trying a chiropractor. I've been a patient my entire life, and I take my own children there as well. If you have an ache or pain, give Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare a try. And if you mention the Fun Fans Podcast, they will donate 100% of your initial evaluation cost to their charity of the month. So call them at 864-583-3967 or find them at ivyosullivan.com to feel better and function at your best. All right, so let's get to our guest this evening. We have a special guest that's going to make the show what it is. This afternoon, we are going to talk about the differences in the generations and how they celebrate the Super Bowl. And we're going to talk about the Gen Zs here in a second. But we have our millennial guest with us, Miss Jordan Oyervitas. She is a fabulous biology and anatomy teacher at Grinnell College Charter High School, home of the Blazers. You're supposed to say get fired up.
Oh, get fired up.
Get fired up, Blazers.
And she is a sports fan, and she is a volleyball coach, and she just happens to be on a leave from the coaching to raise a couple of kids. And she's, her dad's a coach, and so she's a sports fan, and she loves. She's specially chosen because she kind of coordinates our Super Bowl, where you spelled with like soup, like the food, SOUP, lunch that we normally have at our school. So we know she knows what she's doing when it comes to hosting a party. How are you doing this afternoon, Jordan?
Doing great. Doing good. Just been cleaning up, getting my snacks kind of laid out. I got my menu written down, my things that I need to make. The oven has only so much square footage of cooking space, so I got to plan what goes in, when, get my temperatures right, all that good stuff.
See?
Yeah, she was explaining cooking as if I don't do all the cooking at our house.
Well, you just explain it for the listeners, Bailey. And see, that's exactly, so we're perfect segue right into what we're talking about here with how we celebrate the Super Bowl and how it may differ from generation to generation. And I want to say that this was inspired by my wife when I said, what are we doing for the Super? Well, I said something about a Super Bowl party, and she says, we're too old for Super Bowl parties. No. And I'm like, no way. But I guess, the word party can be subjective and it can be different for different folks. And so we have Bailey and I are Gen X. So this is Bailey. You learn something every day. So we found out Bailey, not really familiar with the labels. And so our age, let's just say Bailey or Gen X, you get a little younger. The millennials, and we're not going to talk about age with the female on here, but the millennials are in the young, there's some of them are starting to turn 40, and that might be difficult for them. No. But most of them are in their 30s,
really mid 30s
kind of thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, Jordan's definitely nowhere near 40. And the Gen Zs, Bailey, that's our kids' age. That's like the 25, maybe 26. I don't know, but then down to the high school seniors or so.
Yeah,
And
I actually looked it up, and I still didn't really pay much attention. So,
but just want to point out, since we're missing the Gen Z, they backed out on us. We're going to try not to throw them under the bus. And is that typical of the Gen Z generation, you think?
I guess it's they failure to commit.
Yeah.
Well, maybe just at that age, I'm sure we were a little less responsible when we were in our early 20s. But so, Jordan, go ahead and tell us, since you started, and we will assume you represent all millennials today. You're doing a great job.
That's
tell us about your Super Bowl plans.
Yeah. So up until last week, I didn't even know who was playing in the Super Bowl. I don't follow NFL. I'm a Clemson fan. We love to watch football in general, college football. And it was not until last week when one of my students said, "Hey, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? Are you a Swiftie?" And I'm not, but I was like, okay, I guess the Chiefs are in it. And then found out, I don't even know, is it the Philadelphia Ravens? Is that right?
Eagles.
Well, it's the Eagles. It's the EEGLES Eagles, according to the Philadelphia mayor.
Is that who's the
Ravens? She spelled it wrong.
I don't even have it right.
Yeah, some bird.
Okay, yeah, the birds. So that was the beginning of my Super Bowl thoughts. And this week, talking with my husband, he's like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" We just got a projector put up in our like detached garage so we can do a multitude of things. And he was like, "Well, I want to get the projector dialed in for the Super Bowl on Sunday." So he was working on that yesterday. And now, we sent out a text to our neighbors, "Hey, so-and-so come over." See, we all have kids, young kids. So it's like, we can't be traveling too far. We can't invite people over who have lots of kids, because I don't want a bunch of kids in my house. Our neighbors can come hang out, and then they can leave, easy golf cart ride, whatever. So of course comes the food next. So we're talking about, hey, what food do we want? What, dips, and who needs to bring what. And I feel like as hosts, a host always should sort of do the majority of like the savory food. So of course the buffalo chicken dip. What else? Pigs in a blanket was my husband's request. I've got gotta have some carrots and little charcuterie mixed in there. Of course the cooler is full of beverages. And then our neighbors are bringing a couple other little treats and sweet desserts, and we're just going to set up a folding table and have us a little garage tailgate, watch the game. And really, I'm all about the commercials and the halftime show.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm here for.
Without a doubt.
And commercials.
We have good weather for a
garage. It's a great day. I was getting ready to say, great day to be in the garage. Man,
yeah, it's like 70 for all the worldwide listeners. It's like 75 degrees in upstate South Carolina today.
Hot. Yes.
Well, that sounds like fun. Yeah, I remember those days. Bailey, what are you guys doing?
I have some wings marinating, making some salt and vinegar wings, which I've done before, but curious to see how they turn out tonight. And then some just regular wings, and got some sausage and Velveeta dip going. And it's just three of us. So, Katie's she has to work in Greenville this week so she's gone, but that's about it. It's a school night. I'm 51 years old.
See, that's my first line on my notes. It's a school night. Right. And that's that you get these. So we're representing the Gen X guy. We have crossed into the 50s, and there's some that are still in their 40s, but you have to take that in consideration once you get to a certain age. But I remember the days of the garage, Super Bowl parties and the neighbors or the groups or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty much just our family. At my house, we take advantage of or use the Super Bowl as an excuse to have some of our favorite snacks. Normally Rotel is like a staple on Super Bowl Sunday.
I just emptied 3 cans in the crock pot
here before, college football starts back up.
Yes. But like I said earlier, I've already placed my order for wings, at Rubens. So when we get off here, I'm going to go pick them up. But one thing we're taking advantage of using the excuse for some sweet treats, and I've purchased the items to make Super Bowl sundaes, as in like the ice cream
Look
sundaes.
at
Very
that.
good.
Yeah, so it's as our children, Jordan, have gotten older, they like whether they're into the football or not, they like the commercials,
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
Swift.
camaraderie too. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So it's basically, it turns in, like Bailey said, is you watch it with your family, and and Jordan knows Grayson and Jillian too. So,
Yeah.
and I guess
In my
Jalen maybe.
pajamas.
Yeah. So we just watch it with the family. So, and
Well, I would like to back up and say that for like the last, up until a few years ago, Super Bowl Sunday was okay. What time are we practicing? So, and what time is the Super Bowl? Because we always would practice on Sunday evening. I would let the kids choose what time on Sunday it works best for everybody.
yeah,
And most of the time it was like right during the game, so we would have to adjust that on Super Bowl Sunday, and um, so it never has been a huge celebration day at my house.
no. Well, I enjoy it with the family. And Jordan, speaking of, and he's referring to basketball, high school basketball, of course. But we have a coworker who I think had to spend at least a portion of her Super Bowl Sunday at a volleyball tournament. So there were probably some of those days for you
Oh yeah, I'm
back
sure.
in the day.
I'm sure. Yeah, I those days are like a blur to me because it was so much happening. I mean, now it's like a different blur with a 2.5 year old and a 5 month old. So same craziness, just different blur. But yeah,
Right.
volleyball Sundays, and sorry for any Clemson Saturdays that volleyball took over. But
Yeah.
us coaches got to do what we got to do.
I don't understand why it surely it won't be long in the future that Super Bowl Sunday will be a nationally recognized holiday, and none of this other stuff will be allowed. So,
Or
Well, and
after
I can
Super.
remember when the Super Bowl was actually like 1 o'clock on Sunday or 2 o'clock.
you're going way back now, baby.
Yeah, I mean that's back like
That's boomer talk
early
there.
'80s. Yeah, yeah,
Tell him that's boomer talk, Jordan.
yeah.
I have some family out in Seattle, and we have this big family thread, and we do our squares. We did our squares for national championship, all that stuff. Anyways, we did our squares today, and my uncle was like, "Man, I love knowing that we're gonna have a 3:30 game time start." And he said, "Sorry for you East Coast people who have the 6:30." And I sent him a picture of us outside playing, and I was like, "We got 75 degrees and sunny, and you have, I don't know, been raining, so we're good."
Right.
Fog and rain. So it's like it brings people together from across the country. So, and that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
And speaking of, and just to kind of close out with who we are maybe pulling for or who we think is going to win, there's nothing that brings the country together like pulling against the Chiefs. I used to like the Chiefs, but they've kind of gotten a lot of, I'm gonna say luck maybe, or people start thinking they get some assistance on the field with some folks. I don't know. I utmost respect with how Patrick Mahomes plays, and those guys are really, really good. But I'm tired of seeing the same team win, man. I got to pull for the Eagles. Who y'all pulling for?
Uh, I'll go with what you just said, the Eagles. I guess. I don't know. I like the Eagles colors.
There you go.
I don't like red and yellow.
Honestly, I don't really like either one of them. I mean, first of all, I'm a Commanders fan. You know that from our discussions.
Right.
And so they're in the same NFC East, and they beat them last week or 2 weeks ago. So that's got that going. And then I don't really like dynasties, and this would be one of the greatest. They're not going to catch Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but over the last 3 years, they've certainly been the best team. And I think, what is this? How many times have they been in a row now?
Well, if they win Kansas City, if they win today, it'll be three in a row and like setting history, first time ever kind of thing. And,
right. So let's just go with the Eagles then.
Jim Kelly's sitting over there like, what's up with that, dog?
Well, he set a record for losing 4 in a row.
Yeah, he lost 4 in a row. Bless heart.
Yeah.
All right. So like I say, we're on the same page there, I guess. And as Clemson fans, that don't help us because tell me, Bailey, am I right? And Jordan might know this. I think there's 2 that play for Kansas City and 2 that play for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So that's just.
I mean, Will Shipley plays some, not a ton, but he does play for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other guys too. But it's That's not a reason to pull for them. I'm pulling for the commercials.
Pulling for.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan seems to be on board with that. All right, well, that sounds like a good plan. We're going to have a great time, and we're definitely going to have way too many calories. Jordan, we appreciate you being on the show with us this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Happy to be a guest.
Yeah, go
All
wrangle
righty.
some kids.
Yeah,
I know.
go
I'm
get
it's
ready.
just- I hear her crying.
Well, go take care of that, and I will see you at work tomorrow.
All right. Thanks,
you.
y'all.
All right, very cool.
Yep.
So one thing it takes with having the little kids, for those millennials and for us way back in the day, you got to have plenty of energy.
What's your favorite? Well, okay, we need some W energy to make it through the game. I needed some to make it through the Duke basketball game last night, or one that tips off at 9 o'clock and goes 3 overtimes this week. But anyway, go to w.gg and get your Jitterless energy drink and use the promo code FUNFANS for 10% off. Or I'm sorry, the Fanboys for 10% off.
Either one.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Clemson, yeah, that's right. We definitely needed some energy this week to stay up for. I had forgotten.
Let me back up 1 second.
Triple over. Go ahead.
What is your favorite Super Bowl memory?
So it's funny you asked me that, because my favorites, and I don't know why, but when I was in high school, our youth group would always get together and watch the Super Bowl, and we'd generally go to a different house of the folks that were the leaders for the youth group, or a parent
right
of somebody in the youth group. But one year we went to this couple that had children, I'm pretty sure, but none of their kids, I think their kids were way younger than the junior high school youth group age, or maybe they had to be way younger. I don't know, but they didn't have any kids in the youth group. They was just this couple that went to our church, and they hosted, but they had a really, really nice house. And it was like, I don't know, just at that particular age, I think that may have been one of the nicest houses I'd ever been on the inside of in my life at the time. And for some reason that Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, sticks in my memory. And yeah, it's kind of funny you asked that, because speaking of being Gen X, lost one of our youth group members, one of my high school friends, this week. So prayers and thoughts to the Atkinson family, but definitely plenty of memories with those folks. What about yours?
Well, I was thinking about this today, and like, obviously as a young person and pulling for the Redskins at the time, and they had a run in the 80s that was they were really good for most of the 80s.
Right.
That was fun, but I remember when Doug Williams killed Denver, passed for however many yards. But my favorite memory is probably in 2004 when the Panthers were in their first Super Bowl. And I remember we lived in Rock Hill, and Katie was like 2. And she had this, like, somebody had purchased her this like windsuit, a Panthers windsuit for a 2-year-old. And she was rocking that thing. I remember seeing her sitting in front of our big screen TV that was like 8,000 pounds back then. And just, we were cheering, and she didn't know what was going on really because she was 2. But that was just something that I thought about today when I was going through some of this stuff. But yeah, that's my favorite memory.
Very good.
Even though they lost.
We have a friend that's was a cheerleader for the Panthers that year, back in that time. We should have her on the podcast.
Jake Delhomme.
All right, so yeah, that's it's making new memories now for sure. But circling back to the basketball, I had forgotten about the triple overtime night. We had senior night at the school, so our basketball game went a little bit late. A lot of whistles, thanks to the referees. So I come home late, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch the end of the game. There was 2.5 minutes left in regulation.
Right.
But tell us about the basketball, Bailey.
Well, I think if you go back on this particular show, the first time we played Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech, they were missing like 3 starters. But I think I made the comment that Georgia Tech's style is not, for whatever reason, Clemson doesn't match up great against Georgia Tech.
Right.
When everybody's healthy. Same thing happened last year. They beat Clemson in overtime at Little John, and they beat them this week 3 overtimes at Little John. But then the number 2 Dukies come to town yesterday, and they're going to be number 1 because Auburn got beat earlier in the afternoon.
Oh,
and
wow,
then Clemson dominates them 40 points to 22 in the paint, out rebounded them 36 to 23, shot almost 60%, where Duke shot 43%. Victor Locken, big man from Napa, Russia, grad transfer from the University of Cincinnati, 22 points. He played great. And man, that was fun because if you grew up where I live and people love North Carolina and people love Duke, and just to hear the guys at the golf course yesterday talking about how bad Duke was going to beat Clemson,
yeah,
and just being able to now next time I see them, just smile.
yeah.
Go Blue Devils. And Duke is out. I mean, they are unbelievably good.
Oh,
They're good.
yeah.
Clemson's second half was Brad Brownell said was the best they played.
That's
ever.
my 2 cents worth on the basketball side of it. Was, in my opinion, I definitely saw a difference in, whether it was I saw the intensity, a difference in the intensity Clemson played with, the focus in the second half. And maybe
what
some other
aggravates me,
technical stuff, but
I mean, what aggravates me is that going into Wednesday night, they're 18-4. They got 1 loss in the ACC, and the place is not full. It should be full like it was last night, every night.
yeah,
because they're that good. They're good. And for some reason, they're not ranked. And if they're not ranked now, they're not going to be ranked. Okay.
right.
I mean, they're just not because they've beaten Kentucky and Duke, and they play North Carolina Monday night. So they got a quick turnaround. They got North Carolina at home. North Carolina's North Carolina. They're not very good this year, but they're still North Carolina. So
Correct.
you got to show up and play again Monday night. But and then they only have after Monday night 5 more ACC games, and then they have the tournament. So Clemson is very good, I think, very good.
How does
especially when they're making shots.
Last I saw, they were, even before beating Duke, they were projected at like a 7 seed. How is that not ranked? How do you? I mean, they must just be barely out of the rankings.
Yeah, they're like the last team out, but it's
I mean, it's a different scale. I know
they're penalized. I mean, they use all the rankings and all the net matrices and all that stuff, and Clemson's like the 26th best team in the country.
Yeah.
But I'd take us on a given night.
Well, it's like, that's one thing about basketball, and football now has a 12-team playoff. Basketball, you're definitely going to have your shot in the tournament, and you have a shot.
Make it.
You have a shot in your conference with the automatic bids too. So
clearly, NC State went on a run, won the ACC championship, won 5 games in 5 days last year, and then went to the Final Four. And they may not even qualify for the ACC tournament this year.
Oh wow, yeah, that was fun. That was fun for them last year, for sure.
Yep.
And we know how much you love NC State. All right, so North Carolina and 5 more games. The basketball season is winding down. And you know what else? Just one thing on the girls' side, I saw where they've increased attendance by like 900% or something like that. And I think that's really good. I know they've done a lot better this year.
The product is so much better.
Oh yeah, so that's really happy for them. And just real quick, Clemson, and we don't, y'all know, if anybody listens to this show, we don't get on here and break down all the sports anyway. But Clemson right now in all schools, we got male and female wrestling going. Clemson ice hockey team is going. The gymnastics has cranked up, and the spring sports have started. Either they've already had or they've got a scrimmage coming up, like softball, baseball, and those guys. So
yeah,
get out there.
Scrimmage is Furman this week.
Support your team, support their sports. Those kids, no matter who you pull for, whether it's Clemson or not, those kids really, really like seeing a crowd when they play, and it means a lot to them. And it's really cool. And, my opinion, and I've said this before, going to girls basketball or a midweek baseball and that kind of thing, sometimes those are the most fun sporting events you can go to as well. So anything else as far as Clemson athletics, Bailey?
Nah, man, Clemson beat Duke last night. Did you see that?
I did. I did. It was on TV and everything.
And there was one more thing. It was really cool. That was Dick Vitale's first game back.
I was about to say the same
At the
thing.
age of 85 years old, I think
Yeah.
is what he is.
So that was a really special night not for Duke, but for the college basketball community in general, and pulling off an upset. Like I wasn't real upset, but for the game to be the way it was, that was very
I wasn't
good.
mad at him.
Yeah, I wasn't mad at all. All right, so speaking of spring and the show, we're going to be coming on here. The plan for the spring is every other Sunday, but just keep checking us out on social media, and you will see when we need to get on here. And FYI, we're looking for a couple more sponsors. So if you have a business or you know someone who wants some exposure and support, I like sharing our people that support us. Sharing stuff on social media. There are a lot of eyes and ears that get on what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
And but you don't have to spend a fortune to hook up with us. So just have them reach out. We're not that hard to find. The Fun Fans Podcast. So I had a great show. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. Huge thanks to Jordan for being our guest today. And I kind of like talking about sociological studies, like in culture and that kind of thing with the different generation. I think it's fun. So
okay.
And don't forget to get out there and support your winter sports teams. Thanks again for checking us out. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media, and please share. Reach out to become a sponsor. On behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, Greenville Sports Media, and Bailey Jackson.
Beat the Hills tomorrow night, Tigers. Everybody needs to be there to support them.
That's right.